To conservative Roman society, these displays were startling and unorthodox, but the state permitted them within clearly defined limits because the cult of Magna Marta had been officially sanctioned. Roman citizens were legally forbidden to become Galli, as the act of castration was considered a grave violation of Roman idols of masculinity and self-control. Therefore, most Galli were foreigners or slaves. Their ambiguous status, combining elements of male and female identity, as well as their intense rituals, placed them outside of the social norms of Roman life. Nonetheless, they were sacred within the cult context and served as vital religious intermediaries. Despite their marginalization, the Galli played an important role during festivals such as the Magolicia, held each April in honor of the Magna Mater or Mater. During this celebration, they led rituals, processions, and sacrifices. While their own ceremonies were often ecstatic and dramatic, the Roman state maintained a parallel, more conservative version of the festival that involved the Senate and public games. Over time, the Galli came to symbolize Rome's complex relationship with foreign religions. Their presence showed how Roman religion could incorporate foreign deities and rituals, though often with restrictions designed to maintain Roman cultural boundaries. Through their radical devotion, the Galli embodied the mysteries and powerful nature of the goddess. They served and highlighted the tension between Roman tradition and religious transformation. Attis was a central figure in the mythology of the Phrygian and later Roman cult of Cybele, also known as the Magna Mater or Great Mother. Originating in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, the myth of Attis spread throughout the Greco-Roman world, where it took on various forms, particularly through its connection to ecstatic religious rites and themes of death and rebirth. In the myth, Attis was a beautiful youth, often described as a shepherd or semi-divine being. His story is intimately tied to Cybele, the great mother goddess who embodied the wild, fertile, and untamed forces of nature. According to the most common version of the tale, Cybele fell in love with Attis, but he became involved romantically with a mortal woman. In a fit of divine jealousy and rage, Cybele drove Attis mad, leading him to castrate himself in a frenzy beneath a pine tree, where he either died or was transformed. The pine tree became sacred in his honor. In some versions of the story, Cybele later resurrects him or grants him some form of eternal life or spiritual immortality. The myth of Attis carries deeply symbolic weight, especially in connection with seasonal cycles and agricultural renewal. His death and rebirth were often seen as metaphors for the death of vegetation in winter and its return in spring. This cyclical theme was central to the rituals of his cult, which were especially intense and emotionally charged. In Roman religious practice, Attis was honored alongside Cybele, particularly during the spring festival of the Magalesia. One of the most dramatic moments occurred during the Dies Sanjunis, or Day of Blood, when the Gali priest of Cybele would imitate Attis by engaging in self-flagellation, ecstatic dancing, and in some cases, ritual castration. These acts were meant to symbolize the loss of spiritual rebirth. No. These acts were meant to symbolize the loss and spiritual rebirth of Attis, and were believed to bring the devotee closer to divine understanding and purity. Attis also symbolized a form of divine suffering and transformation. His story appealed to certain mystery religions in the Roman world, particularly to those who sought personal salvation through suffering. While this cult remained somewhat peripheral in Roman state religion, its emotional intensity and mystical character attracted many followers from different parts of the empire. Attis represents one of the more vivid examples of ancient religious syncretism, where local deities and myths were adapted to fit new cultural and religious environments. His myth retained its core themes of love, madness, sacrifice, and renewal, but was interpreted differently depending on the context in which it was practiced, whether in Phrygia, Greece, or Rome. The ritual of Attis, particularly as they evolved in the Roman cult of Cybele, involved powerful symbolic elements: the pine tree, the bull, and the disc, all of which played distinct roles in the mythology and religious practices, or the religious practice surrounding Attis's death, rebirth, and spiritual significance. These rituals were central to the festival of the Magalesia, celebrated in early spring, and were designed to reenact and honor the mythic suffering and transformation of Attis. The pine tree was one of the most potent symbols in the Attis cult. It represented the site of Attis's castration and death. According to the myth, Attis, driven mad by the jealousy or divine frenzy caused by Cybele, mutilated himself beneath a pine tree and died there. In the ritual reenactments, the pine tree functioned as a substitute for the body of Attis himself. During the spring festival, a young pine tree was cut from the forest, carried in a solemn procession, and decorated with violets, ribbons, and an effigy of Attis. This tree, treated as sacred, was brought into the temple of Cybele with great reverence, symbolizing the mourning of the goddess and the temporary death of the natural world, which would soon be reversed with Attis's resurrection, or symbolic return to life. The bull sacrifice, known as the Tauroboleum, was a later Roman addition to the cult, and became a significant ritual act of purification and renewal associated with both Attis and Magna Mater. During this rite, a bull was slaughtered in a pit above which a devotee, often a priest or initiate, stood or lay on a platform with openings. As the blood of the dying bull poured down, it would drench the initiate in a baptism of blood. This rite was not originally part of the Phrygian cult, but developed as Roman religious life absorbed and reinterpreted elements of Eastern mystery religions. The Taurobolium, which is spelled Taurobolium, symbolized a form of spiritual rebirth and regeneration through blood, believed to cleanse the sins and grant the initiate new life, similar to the renewal that Attis experienced after death. The disc, often interpreted as a solar symbol, reflected cosmic dimensions of the cult. While not always explicitly described in literary sources, the disc in ritual context likely represents the sun or divine light, serving as a celestial counterpart to Attis's rebirth and ascension. The Roman mystery cults' solar imagery frequently played a role in signifying divine enlightenment, the soul's journey in the eternal cycle of life and death. The disc may have been used in conjunction with altars or carried during processions, acting as a ritual focus that underscored Attis's divine nature in his transformation from a mortal youth to an immortal being associated with celestial powers. Together, these ritual elements, the pine tree, the bull, and the disc, form a powerful symbolic triad that captured the essence of Attis's myth. The tree anchored his suffering to the natural world. The bull's sacrifice provided a dramatic rite of passage for human participants seeking purification, and the disc offered a cosmic perspective on the cycle of death and rebirth. These symbols merged myth with livid religious experience, allowing devotees to participate directly in the sacred drama and to seek personal spiritual renewal through the emulation of divine suffering and transformation. The festival of Megalisa was one of the most prominent religious celebrations in ancient Rome.